everyone. It's time for another edition of Beaver Banter.
Beaver Sports Talk lives here.
It is the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm CJ Baumgartner. That's Ian Rivers. This is the Beaver Banter podcast presented by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. Ian, I'm just going to put it up on this graphic. Best Bemidji State homecoming ever. What a weekend. What a weekend.
Yeah, the Beavs are back, man.
They've never left.
Yeah, true. This was just a culmination of unbelievable, sports throughout the entirety of the weekend. You couldn't have asked for much better. You could have asked for a little bit better, but at the end of the day, we'll take it.
It's rare that they go, 8-0-1?
8-0-1. Yeah. I mean,
combined through all their sports.
Soccer had a draw on Sunday that we'll talk about with Minot State, unfortunately. Couldn't get us back one in the Beaver battle there, but I'm sure we'll see them again this year, maybe in the playoffs or something. So they'll get another crack maybe. But yeah, it started off pretty well, and it continued through the weekend. The hockey looked great, volleyball looked great. Football got its first win of the season. You were there. And I'm sure that's probably what we'll end up leading off the show with. But just overall, a hell of a weekend. And for it to happen on homecoming weekend, and I know that sometimes universities will schedule a bit of a cupcake. And I don't know if this goes for all sports. I don't really
try
recall.
and massage the schedule the best you can.
Right. And so maybe we lined up and we had some good matchups for this weekend. Either way, you still got to take care of business. And that's exactly what these teams did. And it's just phenomenal to get this high of a vibe off of a homecoming weekend, especially.
Yeah, exactly. And I think homecoming week obviously got off on the right foot for a lot of different reasons on Friday. We'll talk about that in just a second. But also before we really take a deep dive into things, Ian, and we have a loaded show today. This is like one of the first loaded shows of the year, which is awesome that we're back into that groove. But we also need to mention we were at the game day experience, which Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation puts on, and they did a really good job. It was a really fun kind of event. Those of you who are in Bemidji for homecoming, maybe you've been there. If you're a student, you kind of see there's a lot of commotion. It was on the Decker Hall lawn, kind of right across from the AIRC and Diamond Point and things like that. Just a bunch of local businesses and groups and things like that, just kind of putting on booths and handing out free stuff and just kind of getting a vibe for homecoming, trying to bring people out. And we were invited to come, and we really appreciate the invite from Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. They did an awesome job putting that together, and it was really cool to get there. And we talked with a few listeners of the podcast, introduced some people to the podcast, which is really cool, and just got to chum it up with Bemidji State fans and was talking Bemidji State hockey a bunch with people and things like that. And it was just a awesome thing to get to be able to be down there. And we're definitely planning on being back there again next year. Ian and I, before we started recording, we're talking about some ideas and things we could do and ways to add our Beaver Banter kind of flair to things. So it was really awesome. Want to shout out Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation again for the invite and for all the things they did. They also had some great videos of jumping in the lake and things like that. I know Micah, who does a lot of their, media stuff, was down there handling things and taking a bunch of pictures. We both were getting videos of the lake jumping together because, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. We have 36,000 views of Bemidji State jumping into the lake on homecoming.
Yeah, that was we talked before the show. I said, hey, great angle. The angle was everything. If you're just standing back behind the fence, kind of holding your arm in the air, hoping to get something, like, it's like, okay, he was there, cool. But that was a great video, and it did quite a number on social media. So we appreciate all the love we got for that.
If you combine our views on Twitter and Facebook, it's almost a 40,000.
Yeah, pretty big. And but who we really have to thank for that, CJ, is the football team, because without their win, they're not going swimming, and we don't get to pop off on social media like they don't get to jump in the lake. And I'm sure that was relieving for them for so many reasons. Much. Not only to get the monkey off your back, you're 0-5 going into this homecoming game. You want to give your fans the first win of the season that they've gotten to see. And also, it was like 80 plus degrees outside. And so you're standing on that hot turf playing a football game. I'm sure that they wanted nothing more than to jump into nice, cool Lake Bemidji after that football game. You might have seen them break tradition. And even if they had lost, they might have gone swimming, just to cool off. But yeah, it just awesome vibes around the event. Like you said, cool beforehand to get out there and do some, not necessarily tailgating, but, get some people, see some people, introduce them to what we do. And, just overall vibes of homecoming weekend were super high.
Yeah. You mentioned football, about the vibes, and you mentioned about, I know even if you follow the Beaver Banter Discord, we were talking about the game as it was happening, and Ian mentioned it was like a weight lifted off the shoulders, a monkey off the back, whatever analogy you used, Ian. But it was, I mentioned it in a little post game recap video I did on the field. Had the scoreboard right behind me: Beavers 21, Beavers 24, Wolves 21, and it was like a weight was lifted off the shoulders. And I mentioned that. And I just feel like it had to have been true. Like, you couldn't have put it any better. It just felt like there's just so much frustration that was able to be taken out on homecoming, and you were able to get the win, and you were able to get win number 1 in the year. And by the way, against a good Northern State team, they came in 3-1. They're a nice team. They've always been nice. They beat the Beavers last year in Aberdeen. This is a Northern State team that is always feisty. It was never a guaranteed homecoming win. I know sometimes, like you said, Ian, you try and work that out, but the schedule didn't work that way this year. You had to put a quality opponent on the schedule, and Bemidji State came in and took care of business. It technically is an upset when you look at the records of these two teams, but I think at the beginning of the year, if you just said Beavs win 24-21 against Northern, you go, heck yeah, that sounds about right. That'd be a good, hard-fought football game. And it was. Bemidji State's defense, I thought, really, minus a couple big plays, and we'll talk about that at the end of the first half, but I thought Bemidji State's defense did a good job standing tall against Northern State. They were able to hold things down, able to keep them contained. Bemidji State's offense doing just enough in the first half. Obviously, Makinich starting at quarterback, Carver working in as that kind of gadget player, and so on and so forth, and breaking off some big runs throughout his day. But I think really what was the big play, Ian, was Bemidji State gets behind in the game, 21-17. Northern scores late, and you think, okay, here we go again, competing in another game, and we're just not going to have enough gas in the tank, and we're not going to be able to come through and the big win. And then all of a sudden, at the very last second, Bemidji State, on like a third and kind of manageable, a third down play, they bring in Carver, who comes in, and typically when he comes in the game, Ian, that's kind of a signal to everybody, hey, BSU's running. And still Carver manages to get big yards. But in this one, everyone's like, hey, he's running. So Carver gets the football. And then instead, he goes back to pass. Jake Hill screaming wide open downfield, throws it, hauls it in. Bemidji State goes up, and they don't look back. It was an awesome catch from Jake Hill, by the way. That was not an easy grab, and he's able to come up with it and gets into the end zone, and Bemidji State able to hang on with that 24-21 lead. The defense got one more stand to turn the ball over, and then they were able to hang on to things there. But overall, Ian, just a really good game. It was nothing special in terms of the game. It's not like one player completely lit up the stat sheet and it was dominating here and there, but that's a good team in Northern, and Bemidji State, just a gritty, tough win to get on the board. And I'm going to put words in the mouth of Bemidji State head football coach Brent Bolte, but he did retweet our video of them jumping in the lake and our videos after the game breaking it down. I'd have to think that Heath also kind of coincided. He retweeted it, so I'd have to think that he also expressed the sentiment that like a weight is off the shoulders of the football team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Connor Carver, a guy who really has struggled this year, had a great game, I thought. 2 huge impact plays in this game, and that's exactly what we saw him do last year on the biggest stage in Mankato in the national quarterfinal. And CJ, to your credit, he did have the play that was the go-ahead play, which was the 51-yard touchdown run that gave the Beavers the lead. The touchdown pass was to kind of put the game on ice.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
It was 3rd and 9 at the Northern State 44-yard line. And, you kind of assume like, man, our offense is, no offense, definitely not the high-powered offense it's been in the past. So maybe we're just going to force Northern State to take another timeout. If they even had another timeout at that point, I can't remember. But it's 3rd and 9, and they're aggressive. And like you said, deep down the field to Jake Hill, who is, I believe, a guy who's had his injury issues over the course of his career. And so for him to get that big touchdown and that big moment, that's got to feel good as well. But yeah, just a huge clutch play to go up 10. And then, the Hands team coming on and catching the kick at the end of the game and icing it, like just an awesome game. And yeah, like you said, I'm sure Bolte and the entire coaching staff is relieved because now, not that they're sitting here every week listening to us and, rip on them and doing whatever we do, but at the same time, like this is now something that's in the past and they can just focus on go play the next game. Wayne State coming up this next week. That's another really tough opponent. You're on the road, unfortunately, in this one, but it's, now you've got that win under your belt. And Wayne State's the team we've beaten in the past. We beat them last year to help us get into the playoffs. Now, the playoffs are definitely not on the table this year, but if you want to keep some momentum here towards the end of the season, this is definitely a way that you can do it by going and, playing upset, playing spoiler for a couple of these teams. And that's, I think, something that's definitely on the table for BSU in a couple of these games coming up at the end of the year here. But yeah, I mean, just what a game overall. Like, it wasn't necessarily super pretty. You look at the box score, to some running, the rushing attack definitely better than the passing attack on the day, but that's fine. This is similar to what we saw last year from them offensively, where they used McGath last year and now it's Mechanic as the passing quarterback. And this is something I wanted to see all of last year. I mean, it's at the end, once they started using Carver, I'm like, dude, every time he comes in, he runs. And yes, he still gets the yards somehow. They still can't stop him. But it would be nice if every once and then they threw it with him, just so the defense had to respect that from him and be like, well, there's a 5% chance that he just pulls up and throws it deep here. And that's exactly what they did. And it worked to perfection on that play. So credit to them, credit to Jordan Hine for drawing that one up, and credit to the Beavers for coming away with their first victory of the season.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's just I do a lot of high school football games and I talk with a lot of high school football coaches and in any sport really. And you just talk about getting wins. And it's like, it's just good to have confidence in what we're doing. You've gone the first month of the season without getting a win. And there's probably a lot of people who, it's the thought could cross their mind of like, what are we doing? Is this working? And not that it's anything against the coaching staff. It's just like a general statement. Like, what do we got to do to get things rolling? And to get that win, just the confidence of like, they are doing the right things. They are going to be okay. They are going to figure out a way. And yeah, like you said, Ian, not the prettiest of games. So pretty that apparently I misremembered the end. But, looking at this game, I think defensively again, though, it was just really huge for this defense. They've had problems with big plays here and then. And it's kind of been the thing that's bit them throughout the seasons. They've just kind of had a play where it's like, oh, they're doing a good job containing. And then there's a gash play for, a big chunky yards. And okay, well now they're kind of reeling. And then all of a sudden it's bang, bang, bang. But I think overall for the defense to hang tough the way they did give that touchdown at the end, but that was kind of one of those like, they'll score, but we're going to make them kind of eat up a bunch of clock and it's going to take them a while to do it and things like that. And it did for Northern State. And you're up by 10 points, have your Hands team come in and figure things out. And that ultimately happened. So you take that. And then there's also kind of not fluky touchdown at the end of the first half that I think we need to talk about, Ian, where
I was just about to bring that up, how this team bounced back, from that happening at the end of the first half was unbelievable. And I was just going back to look at the play-by-play because maybe you remember it better than I do, CJ. What exactly happened on that, interaction at the end of the half?
Yeah, I believe it was a penalty, right? That kind of gave them one more chance into the end zone.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember if it was DPI. I can't remember if it was holding. I can't remember what the official.
So Northern State gets the ball back with 21 seconds, and was it one timeout or was it no timeouts? I think it was one timeout.
I can't remember.
Either way, like it shouldn't be enough time to score points with just 21 seconds and 81 yards to go to the end zone. And literally the first play, they get a 12-yard catch, and then it's a 15-yard personal foul at the end of it to get them the ball basically at midfield. And then you kind of let them do like a little, underneath gain of 15 yards. And then, at the end of the half, just the 35-yard Hail Mary, to just.
It's not even a Hail Mary at 35 yards at that
Well,
point.
yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's the end of the half. But like the
Right.
point is Bemidji State didn't even make it like a Hail Mary implies like, oh man, we need to throw up a prayer because we need something to go in. But when you're at the 35-yard line, it's actually like
it's kind of just like a pass play. You know?
Right, exactly.
And that's what I mean. Like maybe if they have to throw it 50 yards without that 15-yard penalty, it's a little bit harder to get your guys in position and the ball's got to travel further. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have been that much of a difference, but at the end of the day, they allowed that touchdown and now it's tie game, I believe. 7-7.
It was a game 7-7 going into half when Bemidji State again dominated defensively that whole first half and kind of let things slip away at the end.
Right. But either way, like that's the thing that we've seen spiral this team in games in the past, against Michigan Tech or against Winona. They had some mistakes there at the end and especially against Minot State. It's all been big mistakes there at the end of the game or at the end of a half or something like that. And to be able to rebound and answer it and come back out and compete in the second half and to look really good again in the second half. Because like you said, I mean, if they don't allow that touchdown drive at the end, it's a 24-14 game. And you're talking about this as like, okay, yeah, Bemidji State took care of business in this one. And I'm not going to hold that touchdown at the end against them necessarily. I mean, yes, they technically still scored it or allowed it. But at the end of the day, at this point, what matters is getting the win column, and that's what they did.
Right. Exactly. Giving up that touchdown at the end of the game is kind of like in baseball when you have the middle infielders back with runners on the corners and one out. You're like, we'll concede the run because we want outs. Like you can have that score because the time of the game or your margin of time in the game is really what we care about kind of choke pointing. And that's what Bemidji State did. Like, you can score this touchdown, but you're going to take some time off the clock and we're up by 2 scores and we're going to get it and hang on. So anyway, looking at Bemidji State's next opponent here in Wayne. And again, long trip that you got to make down to Wayne. It's never an easy one. But if you take a look at Wayne State right now, they're 3-2 coming into this one. They just had a loss last week. So there's a little bit of, okay, how do we try and get Bemidji State to get a couple wins in a row? Because no matter what happens against Wayne, there still is University of Jamestown, that's coming up. That should be a winnable game. That's at the Chet. And then you go on the road to play Moorhead, which again has been a team that obviously is the high flying offense and things like that. You have UMD, you have UMary to kind of cap off the season, which is crazy to talk about that we're over halfway through the year. There's only 5 games left, but there is some kind of ways to stack up some wins and you could potentially, are they going to be able to have a winning record on the year? Well, that'd be tough. They'd have to, I think, win all their games the rest of the year to get a winning record. So, because they have a bye week next week. So there's a lot of things that going into this year for football for both teams. When you look at the rushing offense of each of these two squads, as you kind of see, Wayne State has the 4th best rushing offense in the NSIC with over 1,100 rushing yards on the year. Bemidji State has just over 1,000. So Wayne State and Bemidji State kind of comparable running offenses so far throughout the year. Now, if you want to look at yards in the passing game, Wayne State and Bemidji State, again, are kind of similar. These two teams are very similar to each other. Wayne State is 11th in the conference with 947 passing yards, and Bemidji State is 915 for 12th. Now, if you look, Bemidji State only has 5 passing touchdowns, where Wayne has 11. So that's a little bit different, but still, both of these teams offensively kind of are going to be very similar, which you think would have a big impact in this game.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing too, is just it's going to be run versus run. We talked about it with Minot State, and it was true. That game went super quickly, and this one might be more of the same because both of these teams love to run the football. Wayne State does it pretty well, and they also defend it pretty well, like CJ said. So I'm very curious to see what the Beavers can cook up offensively to try to combat this really good Wayne State run defense that kind of pairs well with their rush offense. One thing I'm noticing, just looking over some stats here, Wayne State is 13th in the conference at picking up 3rd downs this season. They've only converted 27 of 88 potential third down conversions, just 30.7%, which is the second lowest in the conference. Bemidji State actually pretty decent on third down, sixth in the conference at 43.4%. But defensively, that's where both of these teams are kind of flip-flopped. Bemidji State has struggled on third downs defensively this season at 47.6%. That's 12th best in the conference. And Wayne State has the best third down defense in the NSIC, only giving up 28.4% of third down conversions. So third downs are going to be something, as in every game, that are especially important. But if you can, win more often than not against Wayne State on third down, that's going to be big for you. If you can get their offense off the field, give yourselves more chances, more cracks at it. And I expect, maybe if you're going into the game against a good third down defense, you got a game plan against that and call some plays on first and second down that try to limit the damage on third down. Now, obviously, that's kind of a recipe for disaster sometimes, because if you're not perfect, you got to kind of dink and dunk it down the field like that. And that's pretty hard unless you're a super clinical and surgical offense. So we'll see what they can scheme up to try to combat this really good Wayne State defense. But they got a tough test in front of them.
They do, especially because Bemidji State's rushing defense is second worst in yards allowed in the conference. Only Concordia St. Paul has given up more yards. And Wayne State's rushing defense has only allowed 407 yards, which, again, sacks probably a big factor in that, would be my guess. But still, like you said, third down's going to be huge. And if you're a Wayne State team that runs the football in early downs, every football coach's dream is that every third down is like a 3rd and 3, a 3rd and 2, where you just kind of can hand off, and that certainly helps out. So it'll be interesting to see. I still think Bemidji State finds a way to come out and win this game, but they are going to have to find a way to stop the run, or to at very least mitigate it. And a way you can do that is by getting ahead early. When you get ahead early in games, that can sometimes force teams to want to pass and get out of their normal rhythm. And so it's going to be very incumbent on the Beavers to get an early lead, get themselves in the driver's seat, and take away that rushing attack for Wayne State in this one. All right, Ian, let's shift here in football, unless there's anything else you want to add on. But we got a loaded show, got a lot of other things to talk about, but what a win for the football program. Before we talk about volleyball and women's soccer and a few other things, women's cross country as well, just want to, again, give a huge shout out to Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. Once a Beaver, always a Beaver. The Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is here to keep that green and white pride going strong for its 50,000 graduates around the world. From scholarships that open doors for students to events that bring BSU alumni and friends together, you can get connected, give back, and leave a legacy at Bemidji State. Whether you're a proud BSU grad, a local supporter, or just love cheering on the Beavers, come be a part of the action at bsualumni.org. That's bsualumni.org. bsualumni.org. They do a lot of those events like the game day experience that we went to on Saturday. It was really fun. We had the community together. It was really cool. Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud supporters of the Beaver Banter podcast. Okay, Ian, women's soccer, they get a win, they get a tie, they get points in each of their games on the weekend. Got to feel good about that.
Absolutely. I think, I think what we talked about is 4 points is kind of the bare minimum if you want to stay in contention for a home playoff game. And that's what they got. They got 4 points. They won the game against UMary on Friday. That was a 1-0 win against the Marauders. It was Maggie Kramer scoring her first goal of the year, assisted by Ella Wade. Katrina Barthel picked up a yellow card in the 78th minute of the game. And BSU kind of sat on the back foot in this one for sure, especially in the second half, being up. They only attempted 1 shot in the second half. And Mary attempted 10. So Mary definitely on the front foot in the second half, but BSU's got a good defense and they were able to stymie the Marauders and come out with 3 points from this game. And then, like you said, CJ, on Sunday, we're all hoping for a win to go a perfect 9-0 in the on homecoming weekend. And unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. Katrina Barthelt scored a penalty kick goal, her 4th of the year in the 19th minute, and Anna Maioto of the Minot State Beavers scored a goal in the 25th minute. That was also a penalty kick, so that's how it would finish at 1-0. Minot State did have a player sent off in the 57th minute, so they played a man or a woman down, I should say, for about 35 minutes of this game, and it showed in the stat column. It's a complete opposite. Sorry, I'm stumbling on my words here, but Bemidji State led the shot battle in this one 22-5. And in the second half, it was 15-1. So Minot State really parked the bus there. That's a very common phrase used in soccer. And unfortunately, the Bemidji State Beavers were not able to capitalize on it. 22-5 overall shot disparity there. But yeah, I still think it's a pretty good, outcome on the weekend. Two difficult opponents. UMary is kind of mediocre, but Minot State has always been up towards the top of the conference. Bemidji State right now sitting in a tie for fourth
with Minot State.
Yeah, Minot State's in that grouping of four. I believe we were in a grouping of four coming into this last weekend. But yeah, Concordia, St. Paul, Bemidji State, Wayne State, and Minot State. So it's tough. It's really, really tight. Your points are at a premium. Wherever you can come across them is going to be huge for the remainder of the season, as we are, just like football, kind of getting down to it. There's still quite a few weekends left, but this is a tough one coming up. You've got St. Cloud State, and then you got the number 2 team in the country in Minnesota State, a team who has not lost this season. They're 6-0 in conference and 8-0-1 overall on the season. So those are the top 2 teams in the conference. Actually, neither of these teams have lost. St. Cloud State is just 6-0-3 on the year, 4-0-2 in the conference. So this is going to be a really tough weekend. Anything you can squeeze out of this is going to be beneficial to you. I'm hoping for, 2 or 3 points. If you can beat one of these teams, that'd be awesome. If you can, at the end of the day, you're on the road. If you come out with a tie from St. Cloud and a loss to Minnesota State, even like 1 point would be better than nothing. Because that's, more than I think a lot of teams are going to get against these 2 teams this year. These are kind of, St. Cloud State has unfortunately replaced Bemidji over the last couple of years as kind of that 1-2 punch with Minnesota State at the top of the conference. But the Beavers are looking to rebuild and get back up there. This is, so far been a pretty good season, at 5-2-2 overall. You'll take it. There's nothing super wrong with that. But this is going to be a real big weekend to tell us where this team is going to be at. And then you've got a little bit of an easier schedule coming up for the remainder of the year. A lot of these tougher games have gotten kind of out of the way earlier in the season. Augustana, Wayne State, Minot State, and now St. Cloud State and Minnesota State are two of the bigger ones up at the top of the conference. So still a lot to play for. Hopefully the Beavers can come out with some points on the road this weekend.
It's going to be huge when they play Minnesota State. And Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at the stats here in NSIC women's soccer. Minnesota State has scored 20 goals on the year and has allowed none.
None, really.
None. Maybe
I'll verify that.
I don't know if I'm looking at the stats right, but so far I see GF 20, GA 0 on that stat sheet for Minnesota State. St. Cloud State, again, the 2 teams that are at the top of the conference have the best differential. St. Cloud State, 15 goals scored, 3 goals allowed throughout the course of the season. So it's going to be imperative that Bemidji State plays their defensive style, but you're going to need to be a little opportunistic and kind of hope some things break your way, and you're going to need to find a way to get some goals against these 2 very, very, very stout defenses, as Ian's kind of verifying that.
Yeah. So here's the results so far over the course of the season. They tied with Central Oklahoma 0-0 to start the season. They had a 1-0 win over number 17 Central Missouri. They played number 4 Grand Valley State and won 1-0. 2-0, 5-0, 4-0, 2-0, 2-0, and 3-0. So granted, they haven't played a ton of the teams that are at the top of the conference, but nationally speaking, Central Missouri and Grand Valley State are both very respectable teams, and they shut out both of those teams as well. So it's going to be pretty tough. If you can score a goal against them, I think that's a win. Let's be the first team this season to break that goalless streak and really piss them off. I don't like giving Minnesota State credit for much, but that's shades of I can't exactly remember. I think it might have been like 1990 Italy that like over the course of their entire World Cup qualifying cycle and the World Cup in which they won, I think they only allowed 6 goals. And so that's pretty on par with that team. Yeah. So let's go score 6 goals on them. You know,
I don't like giving Mankato credit at all. How about Bemidji State? Yes, scores 6
go
goals.
talk to the men's hockey team. They clearly know how to score goals. And just let's figure it out. Let's take some of their goals from last weekend and give it to the women's soccer team for this weekend.
Exactly.
Not that the women's soccer team doesn't know how to score goals.
They could just use a few of them.
We'll get to that in a bit, but
some overwhelming
the men's hockey
force
team
would be
knows
nice.
how to score goals.
Yes, as we learned. And yeah, we'll talk about that in a quick second here. Let's talk a little women's cross country quickly. Bemidji State competed at the Jimmie Invitational last Friday. They finished 7th out of the 9 teams in Jamestown. In that race, Maggie McCarthy found the top spot for the Beavers. She took 17th. And again, this isn't just Division II teams. This is a mixture of Division I and Division II opponents. I know NDSU raced at this one in Jamestown. They actually, I believe, moved the race because it was supposed to happen in the afternoon. They had to move into the morning because, again, it was so hot. So they moved it in the morning so that way they weren't running a 6,000 meter race or a kilometer race or, 5K. Whatever it is. Point is, long 6,000 meter. Doesn't matter. Math is hard. It's not feet. It's not yards. Doesn't matter to me. They had to run this race and they ran it in the morning instead of the night because they also don't have lights on the course. So anyway, that's kind of the Beaver scoop there. Sophie Rylance also found a spot top 50. She took 48th with a time of 24:18.9. Also marking a season best for Jaslyn Hanneberger's 24:41.2. That was 54th in the race as well. So mixture of Division I, Division II, NAIA, basically anybody kind of in that Dakota area was there competing. Bemidji State also there. They finished 7th out of 9 as a team. Ian, let's talk a little bit of Bemidji State volleyball, because not only did they get their first conference win of the season, not only first conference win of the Coach Butte era, but also the first weekend sweep in NSIC play of the season. It's a good weekend to be a Beaver, especially because Bemidji State got revenge in the Beaver battle, taking away a clean victory in 4 sets.
Yeah, we're now 1-1-1 on the season against the Minot State Beavers. Football loss, a soccer draw, and a volleyball win. They won that match on Friday 3-1 over Minot. They lost the first set, and then they won 3 in a row to, not sweep the Beavers, but to take a commanding victory. And then, like you said, CJ, it was a 3-0 sweep over UMary on Saturday morning. I honestly forgot that game was at 11 a.m. I thought it was kind of in lockstep.
Kind of time it out with like volleyball, then football,
with the homecoming football game. Yeah, that probably would make sense. But I remember turning it on right before the football game, the game had just ended, and I'm like, oh, we won. Okay, nice. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of it, but yeah, 3-0 sweep. One of those sets, the second one going to 28 points. They won 28-26. And then the other 2 on the outside of that were both 25-20 victories for the Beavers. So really good. We talked about last week how you kind of wanted to be able to see how many wins you could pick up in this 3-week stretch here, because these are kind of the teams that are going to be down towards the bottom of the conference, where you've kind of been over the last couple of seasons. And if you're a team that's expecting yourselves to take this kind of jump up into the middle category of the NSIC, these are the teams you really have to beat up on when you do that. And it's a good start to that, to sweep your first weekend. Now you get to go on the road and play again against some of the teams at the bottom of the conference. Jamestown on Friday, Northern State on Saturday. Jamestown currently 1-6 in the conference, 6-8 overall. And Northern State a little bit more respectable. They're 11-4 overall, 3-4 in the conference. So there's room to be had there. Northern State's going to be pretty tough, but I think it's still a gettable team, especially if you have some momentum coming off of potentially 3 straight wins by the time you get there. We'll see how the Beavers can do before they have kind of a weird home and home. It's kind of an unconventional volleyball weekend. The next weekend, it's Thursday, Saturday, because they're in Moorhead and then they come back home to play against Crookston. So yeah, interesting schedule coming up, but some winnable games on the list. And I'm excited to see if they can kind of keep this momentum rolling.
Yeah, looking at the momentum too from the match on Friday between Minot State and Bemidji State, there's some of the points out is Bemidji State's offense just really felt in sync. And you could find that in not only the number of kills, Bemidji State had 22 more kills than Minot State did in the game. But Minot State had about the same amount of attacks. So when you look at that hitting percentage, Bemidji State had a hitting percentage of 24.8% compared to just 8% from Minot State in the game. So the offense for Bemidji State just was in rhythm. They were in play. They were able to do the things that they wanted to do, get their offense in rhythm and get it to their hitters. Lily Reese had 17 kills. Eighthman had 14. Nevaeh Carlson had 13. Grace Hofford with 9. So really just a good job getting your offense in sync. And again, taking advantage of a team in the NSIC in Minot State that hadn't won a game coming into that one in conference play. So you were able to be the Beavers that ended up winning an NSIC match in that one. Against UMary, the offense was in a little bit better as well on the hitting percentage at 35.2. UMary was at 34.5. UMary just had a little bit more errors as well. They all were close sets. It's just Bemidji State having to come out on the winning end of each of them, like you talked about, Ian, going to extra points in that second set against UMary as well. Ava Eighthman, 14 kills. Lily Reese, 12. Nevaeh Carlson, 9. Grace Hofford with 5 kills in the match as well. So just good to see not only that they won these matches, Ian, but also, like you said, just the confidence that it feels like they're on a roll. They're getting going, and now they have that soft spot of the schedule coming up. So we'll see what happens with that. Best of luck to the Beavs this weekend. Congratulations to them on getting their first conference win and conference sweeps this weekend as well. So taking a look now, Ian, I think that breaks us down to just the ice for the ice hockey teams as we got done with soccer and volleyball. Before we hop into that, though, we got to thank the good folks at Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation.
Do you want to be a part of the team behind the teams at Bemidji State? Join hundreds of dedicated fans when you donate to Beaver Athletics and help BSU pursue its next championship. Your gift can power your favorite program, establish a scholarship for a student athlete you get to meet, and so much more. Every dollar brings the Beavers closer to raising another trophy. You can add to the proud tradition of success at Bemidji State, so don't wait. Give today at bsualumni.com/Beavers. That's BSUALUMNI.org/BEAVERS. Speaking of championships, CJ, some of these ice hockey teams might be pushing for championships. I don't know which side you want to start on. Maybe women's.
Let's start with women's hockey. They were home for homecoming, and they we talked about it. This is an opportunity on the schedule. Last year, Bemidji State had to go play at Robert Morris. This year, they were coming into our barn, and it just felt like this is the opportunity to get some wins, get some confidence rolling early in the season, like we talked about with volleyball. And they did. They got a weekend sweep. They got their first 2 wins of the year. And not only that, Ian, when you looked at kind of the results of these 2 games, they took care of business.
Yeah, they kind of dominated the Colonials, I think, is what Robert Morris is. Yeah. Had to kind of think there pretty hard for a second. But yeah, it was a 3-0 victory on Friday. And it was really cool to see the Beavers able to jump out and dominate a team like Robert Morris. Because like you said, in the past, when this team has won games, sometimes it looks like, oh, it's a 4-3 win or it's a 5-2 win or something like that. And it's a, this was pretty dominant over the course of the weekend. First goal goes to Haley Armstrong, who is surprised about that. Morgan Smith and Issa Godel getting their goals. Issa's was on the power play in the third period. So that was kind of the way to put it on ice, to be a little punny there. 2 goals in the first period, and then Issa wrapping it up. So a shutout for I'm blanking on her name right now.
It's okay. Come on.
No. I can do this.
Come on. You can do this, Ian. Come on. It's early in the
Kayla
season.
Gross.
There you go. There you go.
Sorry about that. She's first shutout on the season for her. I'm sure there's going to be a couple more to come down the stretch. There's some time, maybe not this coming weekend. We'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, and then Saturday, 4-1. Unfortunately, no shutout. But guess who? Haley Armstrong got 4 goals in this game. So 5 on the weekend. CJ, she actually broke the goal horn. I don't know if you heard about that.
I heard a little bit of rumblings, but please inform the folks at home what happened.
Yeah, so the goal horn ran out of air compression. I don't exactly know what happened. I might have to ask Shalana a little bit more about that. But yeah, the goal horn late in the game, kind of the air compressor went out or something, and so the horn sounded a little bit weak and pathetic.
They literally scored too much.
They scored too many goals. Only Haley Armstrong could break the BSU goal horn. So that's super cool. Funny little story to go along with it. But yeah, 4 goals. 2 of them from even strength. The first one to open up the game, and then Beavers give up a goal. 35 seconds later, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Lead was fun while it lasted. And then she gets a goal in the second period to go up 2-1, and then a power play goal early in the third period. And then she adds an empty netter with a minute and a half left in the game to wrap it up. So 5-goal weekend for her. That's phenomenal. Hopefully it's something that she can build on. Not that she necessarily had any issues scoring goals last year. I think she was our leading goal scorer. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, it just phenomenal to see from her perspective and from a team perspective, getting this much success over the weekend. Like you said, last year it was a struggle. No, of course they were on the road in Moon Township, Pennsylvania, but this was cool to see at the Sanford Center homecoming weekend, and to help follow up the sweep just like volleyball did. Super cool.
Yeah, by the way, I know you mentioned this a little bit. Haley Armstrong tied the program record with 4 goals in a single game. Do you know the last Beaver women's hockey player to have 4 goals in a game?
I can't say that I do.
Can you guess the year?
Was it 2018?
No.
Was it further away than that?
Yes, actually, it was Carrie McEwen, December 4th of 1999.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I think I saw Jared post that on Twitter, actually.
Yeah. Really great. And, wow. Conference player of the week and things like that kind of.
At least I didn't say like 1954 or something. Not that I think we had a women's hockey program back that far ago, but does that ever drive you nuts when you like have this crazy stat that's like, and then you tell somebody, oh, dude, guess when the last time? And they're like, I don't know, like 1866. And it's like, well, no, it was 1999, but now it doesn't sound so ridiculous anymore because you just
right. You just threw out like the oldest date you could. You throw it back when Tungsten Armstrong was throwing it in. No relation to Haley. Yeah, exactly. It's a great win for the Beavers. And not only that, I think we also need to shout out, Ian, and I want to pull this up here, the unis for the women's hockey program were
absolutely
fire. Describe, as I'm pulling this up, Ian, to people listening in podcast form, what do these uniforms look like?
Yeah, it's just it's the same ones we saw last year that they broke out for the Hockey Day in Minnesota. It's the gold with the kind of green trim. One of my favorite jerseys on campus right now. It's a shame that they didn't have these out when Jared did his column last year on the best jerseys around Bemidji, because these might have been number 1 on my list. They are clean, man, and I am scared for the next time I get in the Sanford Center. I don't know if they have these on sale in the team store or not, but if they do, my wallet is going to take a beating. You know what I mean? Like, these things.
The Beaver Banter podcast will spend American currency to buy multiple items of this uniform.
Yes,
please.
This was awesome, and I can't, let's not forget about those hats. We didn't forget about those hats they had last year for Hockey Day Minnesota. Those beanies.
Yes, we need those. Get those too, please.
Available. We're willing to wait
somewhere.
We're willing to wait a full calendar year. This coming February, they got them for a full year before you can release them to the public. But we need those. It's the meme where I'm slamming my credit card down on the table. We need it. I need that.
It's the shut up and take my money. Just please have it.
Right.
I don't need it anymore. I will exchange it for goods and services. And this good is it's a hat. I would like it. Please.
Yeah. So they were able to look good on the ice while they were playing well on the ice. So
Exactly.
By the way, what's your reward, CJ, for sweeping Robert Morris and getting your season off to a winning start?
I would have to imagine you go to Ohio State.
Yeah, you get to go on the road to Columbus and play the number 2 team in the country. So,
And what's worse, you have to go to Ohio.
That's the WCHA for you, man. It's a nightmare conference to play in, but that's what we're working towards, man. That's
Just being
what Amber
competitive. I
Frickland
mean,
is
I was
doing.
there when Bemidji State upset Ohio State at the Sanford Center way back, and I believe it was 2018. So it's happened in the past, and yeah, I've got to build the program back up a little bit, but that's where it is to where Ohio State goes, yeah, it's Bemidji State, but we got to be careful because that team, if we're not ready, could catch us just on an off night and take advantage, and that's what you hope for.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Beavers have lost 17 straight to Ohio State, dating back to 2022, the last time they got a 3-2 victory. And then they actually did win 4 in a row against Ohio State at one point, dating back to 2018 in Columbus, and then a couple of games in 2019 in Bemidji, and then another game in Columbus in February of that same year. So it definitely
we used to own the Buckeyes. What the heck?
We did, yeah. Back for about a season. It's a great hockey program over there in Columbus. Unfortunately, we don't necessarily expect the Beavers to be competitive with them this year per se. It would be awesome if we could, Wisconsin. They started like 6 Olympians against us. Like that's just kind of going to be
that program is just in a much different spot.
Yeah. So we'll see if we can play some competitive games. As I say every time, if you can surprise us and pull even 1 point out of this weekend, I'll consider it a huge, huge success. That's not to bash on the women's hockey program. That's just, we're still a couple years away from where we feel like we can be in the same arena as these guys when we're talking.
But if Haley Armstrong decides she wants to score four goals again in a game, let's do it.
That might help.
Speaking of goal scoring, Ian, how about the men's hockey program? 9-2 Friday night, deep into the night back in Central Standard Time, a 9-2 victory. And then on Saturday, this is where Ian last year, the hockey team would get a big win on Friday night, and then Saturday would just kind of fall on their faces and be like, oh, they're just, for lack of a better term, it looks like they're just kind of happy with the one win and they'll kind of skate and see what happens on Saturday. No, 5-0. And even though they didn't score as many goals, it felt like that was a much more dominant win over Anchorage on Saturday, and they come away with a weekend sweep, which is something it felt like avoided Bemidji State all last year. They could play like one of the best teams in college hockey one night, and then the next night look like a team that could lose to anybody. So to get that consistency from one game into another, I know it's Anchorage. I know they're not necessarily at the height of the college hockey world, but it was good to see Bemidji State go on the road in a tough road trip, score a bunch of goals, and take care of business and get ready to come back now for your in-state non-conference schedule.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I don't think the Beavers did at any point last year was get a sweep. Of course, they had several series where they got 5 points out of it, but it was a tie and a shootout win versus St. Thomas, followed by a win. And then you go to North Dakota and you win and you tie. It just never, ever, ever did they get over the course of the year a clean weekend sweep over anybody. And even Michigan Tech, technically, I think that was the first sweep.
Yeah, and that was like February.
Yeah. Well, okay. So these are sweeps. They're just not.
We've been
sweeps. We swept.
We
Tech,
were over that a lot
Bowling
last
Green.
year.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's right. So I apologies about that, but yes, it was very, very difficult. It took us until February of last year just to be able to get this out of the way. And yes, it's Anchorage, but you won 14-2 on aggregate over the course of the weekend. Credit to the Anchorage broadcast team, because Anchorage played a exhibition game the weekend prior on Friday, and they won 12-0 against whatever school they played against. And they said before the game started on Friday, we won't see 12 goals again here tonight. And they were right. There was only 11 goals. I really wanted to get to 10, not only to get to 10, but also just to get to 12 and have to make that guy eat his words. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, just going up and down the goal scoring list here. Friday night, Patrick Satisari, Connor McLennan, Adam Fleming, Riley Funk, Connor McLennan again on the power play, Luke Roloffs, Alexi Silvestri, Riley Funk again, and Jake McLean getting the 9th goal of the game. It's impossible to keep track of. Adam Flamang, by the way, as I tab over to the Saturday night goal scorers to give them some more credit. Jake McLean got the first. Oliver Peer, a short-handed goal and a beautiful one at that. He made a great play along the boards, and then he just basically put on the Jets and got down there and beat the goaltender. Mitch Wolf got another one added in the third. Torrey Lund scored his first career goal as a Beaver, and then Riley Funk got another goal on the weekend. Kirkland Erie had a good weekend. Broadcast was saying.
He said it right. Okay, so this, I know I'm derailing your thing, but yes, if you were paying attention, and again, I think overall the broadcast did a good job. I don't mean to pick on the Anchorage guys. They overall did a good job. I was appreciative that it was for free on YouTube. I appreciate all that. So
shout out Anchorage for that. Shout out Anchorage.
Shout out. You guys are awesome. But yes, he kept calling him Kirkland Erie all weekend, like Lake Erie.
Yep.
And then he said it right one time. He went Irie, and then I'm sorry, Erie. I was like, no.
Yeah, he corrected himself.
You had it.
And you know what's funny is that I thought he was doing that earlier. Like I thought I heard him say Kirkland, and then he said Erie, and I'm like, I think he accidentally started to say Irie there. And then later on he fully said Irie, and then corrected himself back to Erie.
Did he correct himself though?
Yeah, exactly. He did not. So Adam Flamang, CCHA forward of the week with 5 points, 1 goal, 4 assists. Casper Magnuson had one of the better weekends. I know Lucas put out his player cards this week, and Casper had one of the better scores. He had 4 assists. Riley Funk had 4 points on the weekend with 3 goals. Oliver Peer, the newcomer, 1 goal and 2 assists. And Kirkland Irie also had 3 points. I mean, you look down this list. Let me count these. How many people had points this weekend for the Beavers? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 different skaters had a point for the Beavers this weekend. Is that
good?
That's pretty damn good, man. Yeah. And like you said, it's Anchorage, but they still took care of business. And that's what I think is just so, it's so nice to see that they were actually able to still, not come in here and just win a, like I said, I thought they would tie, one of these games because it's a long road trip. That's the kind of the Beavers we've seen in the past. Just super impressive. They put the line charts out on Friday night, and Lucas made a comment in the Discord, which, by the way, join the Beaver Banter Discord. It's super fun to watch hockey games and chit chat with everybody while you're doing it. Yeah, he said this looks a lot like 3 very talented forward lines. And he said that before the game started. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of does look pretty good, but we'll see. And then they scored 9 goals in the game. I'm like, man, he wasn't kidding, man. These guys are nice with it.
Well, and I think that gets into the conversation too. And I know we need to talk about St. Cloud here, and we only have about 7 minutes left. But how did here's a quick one I'll serve up for you. How did the newbies look? How did it kind of look? Because last year it felt like it took a while for new players to mesh, and this year, not so much.
Really good. By the way, I haven't shouted out Max Hildebrand either. Getting a shutout in his first career collegiate game. That was
also
awesome.
Rathan Robbins getting a win on in his hometown. So,
and both of them made some pretty big saves. I think Robbins faced more really good goal scoring opportunities from Anchorage. And he made some really big saves in that game. Not that it would have necessarily killed us if he let in a couple more goals, because it would have still been like 9-4 or whatever. But, if you let in a couple more at the beginning of that game, maybe the landscape of it completely changes. So I thought both goalies played well. Obviously, some of the newcomers really played pretty well. Oliver Peer, I thought, was somebody that kind of jumped off the page at me when I was looking at him. He's just super quick. He's got a lot of speed. Connor McLennan scored 2 goals. I thought Hudson Thornton looked pretty good on defense. On the power play, he obviously was a pro player last year, so coming in and looking really good. And I really liked what I saw out of the returning players. We're talking about how much we needed to see Casper Magnuson kind of rebound after he had a decent year, I think, last year, but it just wasn't like, I think Jared said on the CCHA show, he hit like, I don't know, 45 posts last year. Like, it just wasn't working for him. And, he didn't score a goal, but to have 4 assists and to play as well as he did, Riley Funk played really well. Kirkland Irie played really well. But, we'll see as the season progresses how these teams can continue to, or how these players can continue to, gel as a team. But there is one other thing we do need to bring up before we move on to talking about St. Cloud State quick. Lucas tweeted it out, Beaver Territory on Twitter. It was the first time that Beavers women's hockey and men's hockey both picked up sweeps on the same weekend since December 3rd and 4th of 2021. So
yes, sir.
That's really good. That's a really good thing. And like you said, it was against Robert Morris in Alaska Anchorage. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Still swept both of them.
And look convincing in all 4 of those games. So,
100%.
yeah, really, really good. Bemidji State has a home and home against St. Cloud State in Bemidji Friday night. Go to the Sanford Center. Going to be awesome.
Yes.
And then they go to St. Cloud on Saturday at the Herbrook Center. St. Cloud State, I believe, had an exhibition against Augustana last weekend. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They had an exhibition against Augustana, which they tied 2-2, and then they played a game against St. Thomas on Saturday that counted, and they lost to St. Thomas 4-3. So that's good for the conference, but not good for your St. Thomas hating agendas if you are me.
Oh, it's all right. We're going to build them up to knock them down.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Midco Sports Plus. Get your subscriptions. I know you didn't have
just for
to.
Friday night's game.
Yep, and that's just for Friday night's game. And of course, if you're local, it should be on like Fox 9 Plus. Usually the St. Cloud State games are televised. If you have, YouTube TV or even I think just a basic cable package. If you're anywhere near local to the St. Cloud area, like I am, unfortunately, I don't actually think I'll be able to be at that game. I kind of thought that I was going to be able to make it. Some family stuff kind of popped
Saturday,
up.
so I am not excited about that.
Yeah.
Fall weddings, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, overall, receiving votes, St. Cloud State. This is these games are always, if you lose them, if you win, great bragging rights to shove in their faces. I know St. Cloud State's always a good program, and it's always a fun home and home. And we'll see what happens. Ian, anything else?
Games over the last couple of years, CJ, that I really feel like we have played well enough to win, especially last year. I was at the game last year. I was upset that we didn't win at least one of those games. I thought we played well enough to win either one of them. And obviously a couple of years ago, the games over, New Year's Eve time didn't go so well, but the last win we got was that 3-1 win over St. Cloud State back in October when they were ranked number 2 in the country, I believe at the time. So let's see if we can replicate that. I think this is a pretty good team. Obviously, this is going to be a much better test of where the Beavers actually are as a team than Alaska Anchorage is. And yeah, it's just another great opportunity to help the conference and help yourselves in it's not pairwise anymore. I think it's NPI, I think is what it's called, or something like that. RPI. RPI is a college out east, so that's probably not it. But yeah, it's I think it's NPI. Can
we just call it pairwise, basically?
Yeah, it's like Twitter and X, right? Like we're still gonna call it pairwise.
Is it like because is the formula different, or is like
the formula is a little bit different, and we might have to talk about that a little bit like next week.
Yeah, this is where we got to get some of the elite hockey minds on the program.
Because I don't exactly know how it differs exactly, but it is different than the pairwise.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Busy show this week. Awesome weekend for the Beavers. Homecoming was awesome. Good to see you if I saw you over the weekend, and let's do it again. Let's just never lose. So if we could do that, that'd be awesome.
I'm down.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time. This is the Beaver Banter Podcast.